A focus group to support delivery workers has yielded suggestions such as using QR codes to facilitate entry into buildings. Other ideas include dedicated parking or waiting spaces and extending parking grace periods. The discussion took place last month involving more than 60 workers and development representatives. A tripartite work group was formed last November to look into challenges faced by these workers. Now, ongoing efforts to support this group included a visit last week by the authorities to a shopping centre and a condo in Jurong. They looked at initiatives already in place, including a WhatsApp channel for riders and mall management to share information. National Development Minister Desmond Lee noted that many issues and challenges are specific to the sites, and hence solutions need to be locally developed. Transport Minister Chee Hong Tat also said the government will study how some of these measures can be scaled up and implemented at more residential and commercial developments. The tripartite group earlier sought feedback from about 2,000 workers through a survey. Proposed solutions will be showcased at an exhibition at the end of the year. And joining me now is Jin See, Director at NTUC's Freelancers and Self-Employed Unit. She is also Executive Secretary at the National Delivery Champions Association. Jin, welcome to the studio.
Hi, Shahida.
So, tell us more about the role that NDCA play in this work group specifically.
Yeah, so NDCA, or the National Delivery Champions Association, is a member of the work group. The work group comprises government, trade associations, property owners, as well as our platform operators. Since 2020, since NDCA's formation, we have been working very closely with these different bodies. We've also been going to the ground to talk to platform workers, to delivery workers, to understand their concerns. And we are glad that through this work group, we have a voice for delivery workers to be part of identifying challenges and co-creating solutions.
So this work group, it has a wide, diverse representation. How challenging was it to get everyone on the same page when it comes to trying to improve the working conditions and the safety of these delivery personnel?
Well, I would say that everybody agrees that safety must be prioritized, right? So I think for delivery workers, they play a very essential role. Many of us would remember COVID when we were stuck at home.
Yeah.
I think our delivery workers brought us convenience, brought us comfort. So that's really the priority for the work group. And of course, the challenge is how then do we balance so many different needs, but at the same time, really look at a more progressive approach to enabling delivery, not just in this current context, but really in the future when we actually need delivery of different items to facilitate deliveries to different places, and the kind of infrastructure that needs to be either redeveloped or to be built in order to facilitate safer and smoother deliveries.
So the work group held a discussion last month, as we understand. A survey was also conducted. What are some of the critical issues that have been raised?
Well, I think for one, parking has always been a perennial issue, right? Because many of the developments were built many years back when delivery was really not a big phenomenon. So I think it's quite understandably that many of these facilities, as much as they try to accommodate parking, but during certain peak timings, meal times, there is always a crunch in parking, right? Of course, I think the visit to the property and the mall helped us to really take a look at possible solutions. For instance, having temporary waiting bays, right? And then also looking at how we can facilitate seamless flow, as well as, you talked about, entry, making entry clearances smoother. So these are things relating to work processes, maybe reframing the way that we think about flow of goods, right? That can actually be achieved through coming together and then co-solutioning.
So the solutions really need to be localized according to the issues at the different sites. And this was noted by Minister Desmond Lee as well.
That's right.
But it's not just about getting the nod from the delivery workers. You need to get the buy-in from facility management as well.
That's
Is that
right.
something that's easy to achieve?
Well, surprisingly, because we've been working with some of the malls since COVID, and they do empathize and understand the issue. So, for instance, we visited Jurong Point, and they have made some adjustments to the way that they structure parking, even actually setting up a communication channel. We've also worked with Freelancers to set aside designated parking areas. So I would say that there is progress. Again, I think there are different levels of comfort in how we accommodate whether pedestrian, traffic, the delivery riders' needs, right? And of course, I think for some of the merchants, when there is a surge, even the spaces to wait for food, these are actually things which we need to navigate. But with the work group, it allows us a common platform to discuss these issues.
Some initiatives that are already in place, as we highlighted in our story earlier, include a WhatsApp channel.
That's right.
For riders and mall management to share information. Is this something that we are likely to see happening more often across the country?
Well, I would say that for this particular mall, they decided to facilitate because they do have a group of very regular riders. But again, you know, for riders, some are really more ad hoc. Some are also doing island-wide deliveries. So that's where I think associations like NDCA can come in to play a part. So for instance, we do inform riders, for example, a certain mall, right? This is actually where they could park so that it's faster to actually get to certain food points. Okay. So this is really how we work with the different stakeholders to consolidate information and actually push it out to the riders.
So we are consolidating this information, but what's next, Jean? We understand that some of these proposed solutions, they are being studied. So from this current stage of discussions and consolidation of information to perhaps future implementations, what will the work group be looking at? What will it be considering?
Yeah, so I think there are some very practical solutions already being put on the table, such as looking at the temporary waiting bays, right? There are some which are more complex because they require perhaps a very different way of operating. So for instance, we talk about, you know, entry clearances and all, which again is quite localized. So I think that's where we need to sit down and probably rank some of these solutions, those that are more feasible and the ground is actually more welcoming, we can start first. And then for some that takes a little longer, I think that's where we need to continue the conversation.
Jean, thanks for this discussion and thank you very much for coming into the studio. That was Jean C, Executive Secretary at NDCA, talking about last mile deliveries.